Hello and welcome again. You made it through the first 30 minutes, or maybe this is your first video, but this is going to be ELA. Today's going to be a review, so I think it's going to be an easy one. I was on the fence whether I was just going to start into the next chapter, so I apologize if it's boring to some of you guys, and you're usually like, oh, Mr. Diaz, we did this already. A couple things. First of all, some people weren't here, and I just want to at least start us on the same page and make it kind of an easy one. So if you've done it already, great. This is just a repeat, but nevertheless, I want to go through this. So we're going to go ahead and start at page 85. I'm going to go ahead and read it. Unfortunately, maybe as we progress, I'll start having you guys read and follow along as well, if we decide to go like at a set time. But for now, I'll just go ahead and start reading. What we're going to do is we're ultimately going to write this. As you can see here, Isabel pretends to be asleep when Lockton asks for more wine because she doesn't want him to know that she just heard the plan to kill Washington, right? On page, how did she do that? There's 3 examples that I'm looking for. And then with this information, I think Isabel plans to do what? So I want to know basically what you've done or what you have there. So let's go ahead and start reading. We'll just kind of go from there. So I'm going to disappear a little bit as I'm focused on this. So go ahead and make sure you're on page 85, and hopefully you guys can still hear me. Just going to move a little bit over here. The next day I carried a basket of eels from the fish market to Wall Street, thinking only of hot eel pie for supper. I had not eaten pie since Mama died. Miss Mary Finch had not been very fond of it, but Master Lockton enjoyed the dish. So fat eels weighed down my basket. I fervently hoped Becky would chop off their heads and strip off their skins. It made me go all jumbly in the belly to chop off their heads. I don't think I mentioned it before, but think about the clue based on what we know about her. If you kind of see right here, I would say a little bit of violence, maybe. If you kind of look right here, where why would she show, and why would the author really put her point about being excited about chopping heads, right? So something to think about. I don't know, but I would just put that correlation there. I entered the kitchen and set the basket on the table. Ruth hummed quietly to herself, shelling peas into a large wooden bowl, and Becky chopped kale. Madame walked in the front hall, her hair half fallen out of her cap and stains of sweat under the arms of her dress. She crossed the room, peered out the back door. She peered out the back door, crossed her arms over her chest, and tapped her foot with impatience, then disappeared into the next room. I require you, girl, she said. Becky looked at me, eyes wide and warning. Ma'am? I asked. Madame came back into the kitchen carrying a silver tray. She shoved it into my arms. You will serve your master and his companions. Becky slowly shook her head back and forth. Are you sure, Madame? That's what the master requested, she asked slowly. 'Tis hard to interpret the ways of menfolk, them being so complex and all, but surely when he said, let nothing disturb us, that was indeed his true meaning. Be quiet, Becky, Madame snapped. You have the manners of a donkey and the voice of a goose. Becky said nothing more, but chopped faster. Madame paced back and forth. The mayor of New York is a supremely important man. Could well be the next royal means to the king, governor. It is hardly appropriate to welcome him into our home without offering refreshment. She turned to me. You will not put one foot wrong. When the tray was loaded so heavily, I could scarce lift it. Madame preceded me down the hallway and waited by the closed door to the library. Go on, she told me without offering to help. I kicked at the door with my shoe and called out, wine, sir, and a bite to eat. Leave us, responded Lockton. Madame knocked on the door, not with a terribly refined fist, or with a not terribly refined fist. Come now, Elihu, show some graciousness. Deep voices in the room conferred. Then the door was unlocked and opened. Madame stepped forward towards the opening, but Lockton filled the frame. So this kind of goes to this. What do you think Madame really wanted to? Did she really care about them getting a drink? Based on kind of how we read this, and now that we have understood this already, I really would think it's safe to say that she probably wanted to get in there, right? Thank you, dear, he said. The girl can serve us. I'll send her to you if I need of anything more. Madame tried to look beyond him to the distinguished guest, but could not see very well through the thick form of her husband. Very well, she said loudly. I shall be composing a letter to our cousins in London, our cousins who are so well regarded by His Majesty. Excellent suggestion, dear. He stepped out of the way so that I might enter. There were only two men besides Master Lockton, Gold Buttons, which she remembers from before, wearing a shabby waistcoat of black wool, and a third man who I took to be the mayor. The mayor had on a fine wig, properly powdered and pulled back, with a curl at the end of his queue, a sable coat and matching breeches, a maroon waistcoat, and a white silk cravat tied loosely around the neck. It used to be what a tie was, atop his shirt. The windows were all closed, but sun streamed in, heating up the room to a slow simmer and bringing forth the ripe stink of underwashed gentlemen. A broad, brightly colored map of the coastline was spread on the master's desk. Weighted at each end by a heavy book, Lockton removed one of the books, and the map curled up on itself, clearing the desk for the plate of Gloucester cheese and rye bread. The bowl of strawberries I set there. My most sincere apologies for the interruption, Lockton said. He took a glass of wine from me. Pray, sir, continue. Gold Buttons took a hasty bite of cheese before speaking. It has proved more difficult to bribe the patriots to change the sides than we anticipated. There are those, top of 88, who are fed up with the situation and prefer to melt out of the city and walk home to Massachusetts or North Carolina. I removed the serving tray and retreated to my corner. The horses in the painting still leapt the fence. I fought the temptation to reach for the adventures of Mr. Crusoe on the shelf. Instead, I centered my eyes on my feet and my thoughts upon a slice of eel pie. They turned down the offer of hundreds of acres, Lockton said. The land offered by the king is distant from their farms, Goldbutton put a piece of bread. My fellow reports they simply want a piece and a chance to get in a good crop of wheat. Idiots, said Lockton. The news from Philadelphia is that Congress is close to declaring independence, Goldbuttons continued. I fought the urge to yawn. The master and his friends could complain about Continental Congress at such length I feared my ears might drop off. So this is a clue, right? How does she feel about this? If you look right here, clearly she's bored, right? I fought the urge to yawn. I thought my ears might drop off. She was literally bored out of her mind. Lockton plucked a strawberry from the bowl and pulled the leaves from it. And Admiral Howe continues to delay the invasion. It's maddening. The crown must smash this rebellion into dust so we can return to our former lives with a sense of order. And higher profits, Goldbutton added. If Madame only knew how dull these gatherings were, she would not have been so anxious to barge her way in. I would have happily chopped off the heads of barrel full of eels to escape another afternoon trapped with men, whose voices droned on like a rumbling, dusty grindstone. The mayor set his goblet on the desk. The time for bribery and persuasion has passed. This is the hour when we must unsheath our swords. Swords. And remember, this is her thoughts, right? So if you want to put that in there, and if you haven't already, anytime we see in italics, we know that that's her thoughts. Lockton shook his head. We've been over this, David. Our task is to hold the city loyal, nothing more. The mayor leaned back in his chair. Holding is not enough. They're coming after us, raiding our homes for lead and our stores for anything else they desire. Goldbuttons wiped the cheese from his fingers with a handkerchief. I agree with Elihu. A loyal New York cuts off New England from the other colonies. The rebellion will wither like a vine cut off at the roots. Cut off a vine and it will grow back, the mayor said. You pull it out of the ground and burn it to ensure it is dead. Mr. Lockton put his strawberry leaves in the bowl. Is there a plan afoot to destroy them? Most definitely. The mayor's voice is quiet but steely. This was not idle prattle about Congress. I stood as still as possible. The mayor scratched his mustard stain on his cuff. General Howe delayed the invasion, hoping the revolutionary fervor would die down. On the contrary, independent sentiment now burns as far away as Georgia as well as the western frontier. And once again, this is her thoughts. I'm a bookcase, I thought. I am a piece of furniture, not a girl who will remember every word that was spoken in this room. The cry for liberty has proved powerful, Lockton said. The beast has grown too large, the mayor said. If it breaks free of its chains, we are all in danger. We need to cut off its head. Goldbuttons frowned. How so? We must kill their commander. We're the top of 89. Or I'm sorry, we're on the top of 90. Lockton drew its breath in his breath sharply. With Washington gone, the revolution will collapse, predicted the mayor. War will be averted and countless lives saved. Our world will return to the former state of tranquility we enjoyed before all this nonsense. The study fell so silent, I feared the men would hear my heart beating. Kill General Washington? No, Lockton said, shaking his head, not possible. He is a gentleman. Capture him, arrest him, yes, but we dare not harm him. The mayor ticked off the reasons on his finger. All the American leaders have committed treason against the king. You cannot deny that. Treason is the highest offense under English law, worse than murder. And what is the punishment for treason, my friends? Neither Lockton nor Goldbutton answered. To be hung by the neck until dead, then have your body chopped into 4 pieces, which are sent to the 4 corners of the kingdom, the mayor continued. Others propose we send sections of Washington's corpse to Charleston, Philadelphia, and Boston. They want to keep the 4th bit here to be displayed in front of City Hall. This is a serious plan. The room felt silent again. I could hear the ticking of the hall clock through the wall. Lockton again shook his head. You cannot guarantee Parliament will rule treason. It's too dangerous. If we dispose of Washington, Parliament will do whatever we ask. But how can you accomplish this? Asked Goldbuttons. The man is surrounded by an entire army. We have a man in the lifeguards committed to our plan. He spends his day within 2 arms length of the general. On our signal, he will act. This is why you need the money, Lockton said. There was a sound of a lid being removed and the jangling of keys. Lockton took out a key ring out of the blue china snuff jar out of the corner of the desk. He unlocked the top drawer and removed the tall stack of currency, enough to buy a village or 2. I let my eyelids droop as if I were dozing. Clearly, she's not sleeping. The risks are too high, Goldbutton said in a shaky voice. If we are discovered, we are dead men. Think not upon the risk, but the reward, suggested the mayor. I peeked. Lockton tugged at his collar to loosen it. Suspicion will fall on my neck first, David. I require assurance that my role will not be betrayed. You have my word on it, the mayor said. Your promise is not enough, sir. Lockton pushed a sheet, a paper, a quill, and an inkstand across the desk. Write down the names right now of those who know of this plot. Why, Goldbutton said. This paper will serve as my insurance that should I fall into rebel hands again, it will motivate you and our friends to do everything possible to secure my release. How? Goldbutton said, still frowning. But the mayor reached for the quill. If we do not come to Elihu's aid, he will betray our names to the enemy, the mayor said softly. He is showing us his weakness. Planning ahead is my strength. Do not forget your own name, sir. So one point that I did miss there is, hopefully you caught that, Elihu's not dumb. He knows that if he gets caught, he's going to rat everybody out and basically turn into a snitch, right? So he in himself is protecting himself by getting the names of those who are protecting him or who are with him. I closed my eyes again. The quill scratched across the paper. Goldbutton shifted nervously. There, the mayor said. I opened my eyes the tiniest bit. Goldbuttons quickly read the paper. A vast conspiracy indeed. He handed it to Lockton, who read the names and smiled. We are keeping good company. He handed the money to the mayor and left the empty glass. I believe this calls for a toast, gentlemen. I did not step forward with the wine bottle. Lockton needed to believe I was a sleepy servant, unaware of his plans. Sal, he snapped. I drew back my head and acted befuddled. Wine, Lockton said. I crossed the room and emptied the last of the wine into his glass. Lockton frowned. Fetch another bottle, he said. Yes, sir, I curtsied and left the room. pondering how I could pass this news along to Corzan. That was when the blood-curdling screams started in the kitchen. I dropped the bottle and ran. Obviously, we're going to stop there. If you haven't done it already, what I'd like you to do is you can pause the video if you'd like. I'd like you to go to the first assignment that we have in there. In this assignment, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to, well, figure this out or stop doing this. There you go. Our first assignment, and it's going to look a little bit different for you, is I'd like you to complete the annotation assignment. So in the annotation assignment, I'd like you to tell me all the ways that Isabella, Isabella, that Isabel has been unique and how she's been acting different. So there's quite a bit in there. If you're looking here, you circled quite a bit of them. So just take your second to go through those and find all the ways that she's different. Make sure you put page numbers, as it's going to be easier for our second assignment, or our second part of this. Okay. For our last part, you already know this, and this is going to be in your written assignment. What I'd like you to do is write an essay. It's going to look exactly like this. I have it. It's going to start with, Isabel pretends to be asleep when Lockton asks for more wine because she doesn't want him to know that she just heard the plan to kill Washington. Okay, now I need you to give me 3 examples of how she was being shady, how she was being deceiving in there. And then once you finish that off with this information, I think Isabel plans to what? What does she plan to do? Okay, a finished assignment or a start with this would be on page 89. She says, I stood as still as possible. Isabel did this because she did not want anyone to know she was there. There's lots of examples as far as what she's doing. Isabel's super smart. She's conniving and she's trying to figure this out. Ultimately, she cares the most about her freedom, right? So this is a good start to it. So these are basically our 2 assignments that I'd like you to finish off as we get in here. And that's it for today's assignment. I think I'm going to pass on science today. We'll go ahead and just pick that up tomorrow. So I think that these are 2 good assignments for you. Once again, if you haven't done the math video, you'll have a math plus an assignment attached to that. And then you also now have this one. So go ahead and work on it. Take your time. You obviously have through the rest of the day. And that's our video for today. Thanks so much. And we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, or you hearing me tomorrow. All right. Thanks so much.